धीराधीर जनप्रियं प्रियकरं निर्मत्सरोदितं.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Prabhupada Disciples Association Saturday morning Bhagavad-gītā reading and discussion with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who's in Twain Harte, California. And we have a global audience of participants, which is very encouraging for us who are, many of us, living on their own and always aspiring to get association of like-minded devotees, those devotees that are focused on the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, not only in his letters and on his tapes, but also in his books. So there's a huge volume of information for us to gather together and discuss. That's the focus of our group, and all the members here is to be fixed on Prabhupada's teachings as a community of devotees. And I wanted to remind everyone that we are also available ongoing every day on our Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube page, which has over 120 recorded classes, discussions and readings. And it has been an evolution, so when you look back and see our earlier classes, it gives you an idea of how we're moving forward with our group in presenting Prabhupada as the Siksha and Diksha Guru for all of us, old and new. And we're also interested in people that want to take initiation as a Prabhupada disciple to please get in touch with us so that we can discuss our formula by which they can move to that platform. That's a personal decision on their part, and we encourage it, of course, 100%, because this is how our movement will carry on after all us old guys are gone, which will be sooner than later, by the way. That is the nature of this material world. So, moving forward, we're going to continue on with our reading of the diaries, the beginning of Prabhupada's work in America back in 1966. Remember, he arrived in September 19th, 1965 in New York City and made his way to Butler, Pennsylvania, and then back to New York. And he's been working under very austere conditions, and this has been revealed in the diary readings. And his focus, his focus of preaching is demonstrated in his diaries, books, classes, and kirtans, and letters and contents. So we'll read the highlights today, and then we'll move forward on tomorrow and start in with the individual days. So books, the Paragon, on the 3rd, the Paragon Book Gallery man, Mr. Max, met. He reported that they are selling the books. On the 7th, Mr. Bill has kept my office copy of Back to Godhead for reading. On the 11th, Paragon, hopeless. They cannot sell books. 2 sets of books taken by 2 gentlemen will pay by installment. One of them paid $5. Letter to booksellers, Atmaram and Sons. On the 20th, Mr. Raphael wants to sell books. I have given him instructions. Let me see what he can do. On the 21st, one boy paid, the books partly $6. One boy paid $6 for the book. So that's not much activity you can see in the month of May for book distribution. Classes and kirtans. On the 2nd in the evening, there was a meeting. Only 5 gentlemen attended, including Paul. Contribution $5. Mr. Carl brought his tape recorder. Appearance gorgeous, action poor. In the evening, the meeting was nice. 7 gentlemen attended. Contribution received $6.75. Wow, Mr. Carl was very kind to give me over the tape recorder, which is better than the one I have lost. On the 6th in the evening, there was a meeting, and the contribution collected was $5. Jeez, $5. That's not much money in these days, is it? In the afternoon, there was a meeting again for teaching Sanskrit, and the collection was $6.75. Tonight, kirtan was very much appreciated by all in the Ananda Ashram. 9th, in the evening, there was a meeting. The attendance was large. 14 ladies and gentlemen attended, but the collection poor, only $5. Never mind, it is growing. So here's a turning point for Prabhupada, is seeing. On the 11th, discuss with Carl about LSD. He is convinced about my arguments that there is no necessity of it for spiritual realization. 9 or 10 attended today's meeting, and the contribution was $8. On the 13th, there was a meeting in the evening. Attendance was poor, and contribution was $4. Up and down. 14th, there was a meeting at noon. Sanskrit class. Contribution was $4. I went to Ananda Ashram. There was kirtan in the evening. On the 16th in the evening, there was a meeting. 10 ladies and gentlemen attended. Contribution was $7.55. In the evening, there was a meeting. 12 ladies and gentlemen attended. Contribution was $7. On the 20th, in the evening, there was a meeting, and although the attendance was with 10 men, the collection was only $4. On the 21st, in the afternoon, there was Sanskrit class. The attendance was 10, but the collection was only $4. At 5:30, we started for Ananda Ashram. In the evening, there was a kirtan at the ashram. On the 23rd in the evening, there was a meeting. The contribution was $8. The attendance was about 11 ladies and gentlemen. So they're not very motivated to do anything except listen. That's not bad, but very little action. So on the 25th in the evening, there was meeting. The attendance was about 18 heads. The contribution was $11.75. There was consultations about incorporation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So that's in May 25th. So they're starting up this idea. 27th in the evening, there was a meeting. About 15 persons, both ladies and gentlemen, attended. The contribution was only $8.70. In the afternoon, there was a Sanskrit class, and about 10 persons on the 28th attended. The collection was only $6. On the 30th in the evening, there was a meeting. About 10 students attended, but the contribution was only $6.12. Mikey brought his tampura, and it added to the tune of Sankirtan. So it's not that Prabhupada's money conscious. He's just keeping track of money in and money out. That's just common sense in terms of doing something to develop your program, whatever it is. Letters and contracts. This is the last section of the May highlights. I delivered the keys of 72nd House to the secretary of the landlord. I also handed over to Dr. Mishra the keys of Studio 501. On the 5th, I received one redirected letter from Vrindavan. On the 9th, 2 letters received from Govinda Maharaj and one from Chokshi refusing Paul's free passage. Mr. Carl has taken a copy of the Memorandum of Association, etc. for consultation. On the 10th, 2 letters received from Robert Nielsen, who tried Harper Row for publication, 2 letters written to Vrindavan, and Captain Pandya about Kola, cartel, and harmonium. So drum, cymbals, and a harmonium. On the 11th, 1 letter received from Chandrasekhar, saw Bowery branch of First City National Bank to transfer 72nd branch, 2 letters posted through Paul. On the 12th, inquired about registration of the League of Devotees. Expenditure will be about $300. On the 14th, 4 letters posted to Chandrasekhar, Surya Kurma, Punjab National Bank, Vrindavan, Atmarama and Sons booksellers. On the 16th, received 1 letter from Magna Niloy Brahmachari. Very encouraging. I've replied and assured him to get him here, provided he works, Prabhupada's qualifying it here, submissively. On the 18th, 1 letter received from Atma Singh in Bombay. On the 19th, 1 letter received from Mr. Paul C. Sherbert, and he is replied also. So he's prompt. Prabhupada's very prompt and very detailed. As we know, he wrote over 7,000 letters. I believe it was that, yes, to his disciples. Very positive. 1 letter was received from Mr. Paul. 2 letters reported to Mr. Sherbert and the order to Cambridge University Press. On the 27th, I saw a good apartment and lecture hall at 218 Park Row, Chatham Square. So he's looking for a better center to work from. On the 28th, a letter received from the controller of Exchange Delhi. An incident extraordinary at 10 night when I was typewriting. Paul became too much irritated and I stopped typing. Oh, so the trouble is coming with Paul. On the 29th, Carl came to dine with us. He is informed of last night's incident. On the 30th, posted 1 letter to Shripad Tirtha Maharaj. Mr. Goldsmith agreed to join the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And on the 31st, registration to Indian Embassy. Mr. Nielsen agreed to become a member of the association and paid $20 for month of June. Letter received from Punjab National Bank, Vrindavan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and his work in pushing forward the Sankirtan movement in the early years of 1966. So we'll hear the Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Bhajan, and then we'll have the class by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Jai Amaspat Paramahansa Parivrajaga-ācārya Sattva Small Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāma-ācārya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsari Gaur Bhaktamani ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khund Radha Khund Giri Govardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai Jamuna Mai ki Jai Guru Dwarka Dham ki Jai Swami Bhaktivedanta ki Jai All glories to their Summit. All glories to their Summit. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Akaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened our eyes, who has opened my eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Bhagavad-gītā As It Is. We are reading from the 1972 Macmillan edition, the non-edited, non-adulterated version. Today we'll be reading from chapter 9, text number 3. All synonyms, translations, and purports and commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Ashraddhadadanaha purusha dharamasya parantapa aprapyamam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani ashraddhadanaha. Those who are faithless. Purushaha, such persons, dharamasya, of this process of religion, asya, of it, parantapa, O killer of the enemies, aprapya, without obtaining, mam, me, nivartante, come back, mrityu, death, samsara, material existence, vartmani, on the path of. Translation: those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. Purport: the faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. That is the purport of this verse. Fate is created by association with devotees. Unfortunate people, even after hearing all the evidence of Vedic literature from great personalities, still have no faith in God. They are hesitant and cannot stay fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, faith is a most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should have complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, he can achieve all perfection. That is called real faith. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.4.12, it is stated that by giving water to the root of a tree, its branches, twigs, and leaves become satisfied. And by supplying food to the stomach, all the senses of the body become satisfied. And similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, all the demigods and all the living entities automatically become satisfied. After reading Bhagavad-gītā, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad-gītā. One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. Now, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are three divisions of Krishna conscious men. In the third class are those who have no faith. If they are engaged in devotional service officially for some ulterior purpose, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional stage. Most probably they will slip after some time. They may become engaged, but because they have not complete conviction in faith, it is very difficult for them to continue in Krishna consciousness. We have practical experience in discharging our missionary activity that some people come and apply themselves to the Krishna consciousness with some hidden motive. And as soon as they are economically a little well situated, they give up this process and take to their old ways again. It is only by faith that one can advance in Krishna consciousness. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the Vedic literatures of devotional service and has attained the stage of firm faith is called a first-class person in Krishna consciousness. And in the second class are those who are not very advanced in understanding the devotional scriptures, but who ultimately have firm faith that Krishna Bhakti or service to Krishna is the best course, and so in good faith have taken it up. Thus, they are superior to the third class who have neither perfect knowledge of the scriptures nor good faith, but by association and simplicity are trying to follow. The third class person in Krishna consciousness may fall down, but when one is in the second class or first class, he does not fall down. One in the first class will surely make progress and achieve the result at the end. As far as the third class person in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction that devotional service to Krishna is very good, he has no knowledge of Krishna through the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gītā. Sometimes these third-class persons in Krishna consciousness have some tendency toward karma yoga and jnana yoga, and sometimes they are disturbed. But as soon as the infection of karma yoga or jnana yoga is vanquished, they become second-class or first-class person in Krishna consciousness. Faith in Krishna is also divided into three stages and described in Srimad Bhagavatam. First-class attachment, second-class attachment, and third-class attachment are also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. Those who have no faith, even after hearing about Krishna and the excellence of devotional service, who think that it is simply eulogy, find the path very difficult, even if they are supposedly engaged in devotional service. For them, there is very little hope in gaining perfection. Thus, faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad-vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yache Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhurisyam Janma Janmani Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we see that Lord Krishna is describing a very, very important point about devotional service. We saw in text number 2 how Krishna has described that this transcendental knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Now, anyone who has read the Bhagavad-gītā will know that throughout the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna many times refers to having faith in the process of bhakti or devotional service. Srila Prabhupada has lectured on this and explained this many, many times. I've often described how one senior disciple of His Divine Grace went to him one time and asked him, of everything you have taught, what is the most important thing? Now, it's to be noted that at different times Prabhupada has mentioned different things, but in this particular instance, he quoted that verse, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Guru Tasyete Khatita Hyartaha Prakashanti Mahatmanaha. So it is quite significant that His Divine Grace put very much importance on that particular verse from the Shvetashvara Upanishad. Now, this particular verse explains that if for one who has firm faith in the spiritual master and Krishna, all the purports, all the meaning of the Vedic literatures are revealed. Srila Prabhupada explains in chapter 6, in the last text on page 360, he says, this stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by bhakti yoga as confirmed in all Vedic literature. This is chapter 6, text 47, last 2 paragraphs. Yasya Devi para bhaktir yata Devi tata guru tasyete katita hyartaha prakashanti mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Prabhupada goes on, Bhakti rasya bhajanam tadyamutrupadi nerasya namushmin manaha kalpanam etadeva nishkaramyam Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of Naishkarmya. These are some of the means for performance of bhakti, or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of the yoga system. Now, it's quite significant when we read these various Vedic literatures, how Srila Prabhupada explains the main point we see in this particular text in chapter 9, text 3, first paragraph, how Srila Prabhupada is quoting from the Bhagavatam. It is stated that by giving water to the root of a tree, its branches, twigs, and leaves become satisfied. And by supplying food to the stomach, all the senses of the body become satisfied. And similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, all the demigods and all the living entities automatically become satisfied. Now, this is a very important point, because we see in our preaching activity, and Srila Prabhupada mentions this, that there are some people, according to their situation in the modes of nature, that they don't have that strong faith that by worshiping Krishna, everything will be taken care of. Prabhupada gives a very simple example from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we've all experienced this in all countries of the world. If you plant a seed, you grow a tree, you don't need to pour water on every leaf, every twig. It doesn't work that way. Everybody knows you put water on the root of the tree, and the tree will flourish. Similarly, if one has faith that simply by worshiping Krishna, all the other demigods and family and various duties to human society will be satisfied. In 1977, one GBC member went to Srila Prabhupada and said, "Oh, my father died, I have to go perform some ceremony." And Prabhupada quoted him a verse from the Bhagavatam, Devarshi Bhutatma Pitrinam, that according to the Bhagavatam, if you render devotional service to Krishna, all of these different duties to the forefathers, to the parents, to society, to the great sages, to the demigods, to human society in general, everything is automatically taken care of. And Prabhupada recommended him just stay and worship Krishna. Of course, this karma kanda is very strong, especially in India, because they hear from the Vedas and Vedic literatures and Puranas that if you do this kind of activity, you will get this benefit. If you give in charity, you will get that benefit. If you give money to sadhus or brahmanas, you will get more later on in your life or in the next life. If you organize and make an arrangement to feed poor people, you will get such and such benefit. So people are lured. They're bewildered by these temporary promises of benefit. But what is Krishna's promise? What does Krishna tell us in chapter 4, text 9 of Bhagavad-gītā? What is Krishna's promise? Now, this is a very important verse, because Srila Prabhupada used to often quote that verse to explain to us what is the real benefit of rendering devotional service and having faith in Krishna. This is on page 227, chapter 4, text 9. Janma karma chami divyam evam yo veti tatpataha tyaktva deham punara janma naiti mamiti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Now, this is quite significant that in the Purusha Sukta, which Srila Prabhupada recommended that we should all chant in the morning when we do the deity worship, Prabhupada is quoting it and at the end of this chapter 4, text 9, Tameva viditva mrityumeti nanyaha panta vidyate ayanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no alternative, because anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in a mode of ignorance. I recently had a conversation, quasi-debate, with a very nice Christian lady, and she was telling me that in Christianity they have this Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I says, yeah, we have a similar thing in Vaishnavism. What you call the Holy Ghost, we have as the Paramatma, the super soul, in the heart of not just human beings, but every living being. The Father is Krishna, and the Son, as you call Lord Jesus Christ, the Son is also those great, powerful representative called Shakti Avesha Avatar. And I explained to her that Jesus Christ is a perfect example of devotion to bring people to sacrifice his life, to bring people to free them from sinful activities, to liberate them, to save them. But the problem is that even though he's come to save them, many people misinterpret his instruction and still commit sinful activities in the name of being saved by Jesus Christ. So she had difficulty understanding that, especially the part when I told her, well, Jesus Christ is the Son and Lord Krishna is the Father, and quoted her from the Bhagavad-gītā. In the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna says, Aham bija pradapitaha. I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. We don't disrespect Jesus Christ. Prabhupada once was asked in Australia, one time he went to a program at a Christian theological seminary, what is your opinion of Jesus Christ? Prabhupada said, we accept him as our guru. He has dedicated his life to God consciousness, so we accept and we hold him in very high regard. And she says, well, in the Bible it says that Christ is Lord. I said, wait a minute. Lord Jesus Christ never said that he's God. When he says that him and the Father are one, that means they're one in purpose. But I said, the problem we have is this. You have a text that's in the English language that was originally spoken in Aramaic and Greek. What you need is a translation, just like we have the Bhagavad-gītā. Anybody can look. We have the original Sanskrit Devanagari, the script, the English transliteration, a word for word, which in Sanskrit is called Pratipada Artha, word for word meaning, and then the translation, then purport. This is the proper way of understanding scriptures. Then what we have here, they've jumped from Aramaic to English with no explanation of how they have arrived at the English translation. And I told this lady, here is an example. In the Greek translation, there is reference to the word broma, B-R-O-M-A. In Greek, that word means nourishment, feeding. Well, by the time it got into the King James Bible, that word was translated as meat. Well, meat is not necessarily the real correct translation of the word broma. So in this way, she had difficulty understanding this. So yesterday I had a chance to give her a Bhagavad-gītā and different statements from Srila Prabhupada, which I printed, about how we understand Jesus Christ. It says Jesus Christ is a Shakti Avesha Avatar, an incarnation, an especially empowered, very powerful incarnation to liberate people. I said, but why don't you consider the social circumstances and the historical circumstances of the people he was preaching to? They ended up putting him on trial and condemning him to death. I said, this is a very important point. I said, look at the level of intelligence of these people that he was preaching to. There, of course, Prabhupada made many other statements. We never decry or criticize Jesus Christ. Prabhupada never found fault with Jesus Christ and the Christians for accepting Jesus as their leader, as their teacher, as their savior. That is not. The main fault, what is this mediating, this misinterpretation and misrepresentation of the Bible when it says, thou shalt not kill. They say, oh, that means thou shalt not murder. No, that's a nonsense misinterpretation to justify their unnecessary killing of animals and the ghastly slaughterhouses that they have created. This is not the correct interpretation. Anyway, to get back to the text that we were reading here, this is a very important, because faith will be developed according to people's position in the modes of nature. Again, when we study Bhagavad-gītā, for example, if you look in chapter 17, text number 3, Krishna explains, chapter 17, text number 3, Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddhamayo yam purusho yo yat shraddha sa eva saha. According to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. Now, when we read this purport, we can see that Prabhupada is explaining how people should evolve to the mode of goodness. Prabhupada said the word sattva or faith is very significant in this verse. Sattva or faith always comes out of the works of goodness. One's faith may be in a demigod or some created god or some mental concoction. It is supposed to be one's strong faith in something that is productive of the works of material goodness. But in material conditional life, no works of material nature are completely purified. They are mixed. They're not in pure goodness. Pure goodness is transcendental. In purified goodness, one can understand the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As long as one's faith is not completely in purified goodness, the faith is subject to contamination by any of the modes of nature, material nature. The contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. Therefore, according to the position of the heart in contact with a particular mode of material nature, one's faith is established. It should be understood that if one's heart is in the mode of goodness, his faith is also in the mode of goodness. If his heart is in the mode of passion, his faith is also in the mode of passion. And if his heart is in the mode of darkness, illusion, his faith is also thus contaminated. Thus we find different types of faith in this world. And there are different types of religions due to different types of faith. The real principle of religious faith is situated in the mode of pure goodness. But because the heart is tainted, we find different types of religious principles. Thus, according to different types of faith, there are different kinds of worship. So this is important to understand because we see in Vedic literature how different people have this demigod worship. Now, this demigod worship, a lot is, according to Lord Krishna, is in the mode of passion. Kamesteste ritagyanaha prapadyante anyadevataha. For those who are impressed by lust and material desires, Krishna gives them the faith to worship that particular demigod. But they cannot achieve Krishna that way. One can not achieve the Supreme Lord that way. One can only achieve the Supreme Lord by worshiping Krishna according to the instruction of the bona fide acharyas. Now, this is a very important point because we see that some people will have no faith in the instruction of the bona fide acharyas. I think I've lost the connection here for a minute.
Oh, we can hear you.
This is very significant. We see throughout Srimad Bhagavatam all throughout the Bhagavatam. Dharma prajita koitava atro parama nirmatsaranam satam. That the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for those who are non-envious, those who are non-resentful of other living entities. This Srimad Bhagavatam is for them. And it kicks out dharma prajita kaitava. All cheating religion is kicked out. In other words, the process of Krishna consciousness is simply to engage in the pure devotional service of the Lord without personal motivation. Because we see, for example, in a demigod worship of Vedic culture, there is blatant personal motivation to fulfill material desires. Again, we have seen this practically in touring South India and other places in India, how some people are very attached to the idea of worshiping demigod for material benefits. I've often told this story that we went to one very wealthy Gujarati gentleman to his house. They were worshippers of Vallabhacharya. Now, I'm not implying that the gentleman's understanding of Vallabhacharya is the correct understanding, but when we tried to tell him that if you worship Krishna without any personal motivation, you go to Goloka with Krishna. He says, oh, no, we don't want that. We want to go to Svarga, heavenly planets. I said, why would you want to go there? It is not permanent. Shinye purnye matyalokam vishanti. At the end of your pious activities, your pious credits, you have to come back here. That is what is described in the Vedanta Sutra and Bhagavad-gītā and the Vedas. It's, oh no, we want to do some puja, some pious activities, give charity, and go live there in Svarga for a long time to enjoy. I said, okay, then you'll have to come back here and suffer again. But he could not understand. Why is that situation there? Because of the mode of passion. Prapadyanti anya devataha. Although some people worship Krishna, the motivation, just like Rupa Goswami, as described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmarya navritam, that one should not have any desire for this mental speculation and fruitive activities. Therefore, that kind of bhakti is uttama. Uttama bhakti, that is the best, the topmost devotion. So how does one go into that? Well, one has to chant. That is the recommended process by all the great Vaishnavacharyas, especially in our line. One has to chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So many times when we had the good fortune of going with Srila Prabhupada on morning walks, it is not that Prabhupada talked the whole time. Many times he would chant. And I noticed so many occasions he would recite that mantra from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Brihad Naradya Purana, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. And Prabhupada would say, in this age, the only solution is this chanting. And how many times have we seen Prabhupada describe that simply by this chanting, I started this movement? That was Prabhupada's instruction. And also simply by chanting purely, everything can be revealed. This is the greatest benefit of that strong, unshakable conviction in the position of the Acharya, the pure devotee. Very important, extremely important for anybody here. That strong, unshakable, absolute faith in Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. This is the basis for progress. And for those people who are arguing, oh, Prabhupada is not here, Prabhupada is not present, Prabhupada is not physically here, Prabhupada is dead, Prabhupada is gone, that is nonsense. You'll never achieve progress that way. Why does Bhaktivinoda Thakur, why did he write on the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur in 1914, he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die? Why did Prabhupada tell us what we have heard from the spiritual master? That is living. That is a higher understanding than the Prabhupada is dead, the nonsense Guru is dead philosophy. Materialistic nonsense. Faithless idea. Faithless idea. Never properly understood Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada, I've often said, Srila Prabhupada begins his Srimad Bhagavatam purport. The first thing he says in the beginning, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. This is what we have to constantly remind ourselves of. Just yesterday, I was reading a lecture from Srila Prabhupada in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1975, on the occasion of his Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance. And Prabhupada said, it is not that he is dead and gone. That is not spiritual understanding, unquote. We have to be mindful of that. But there are some people with very little faith. They're very busy promoting their own physicality, their own importance, a very good program of self-promotion. When you tell them to promote Prabhupada, oh, he's not here. You need their physicality. This is simply nonsense. They've never understood properly. I keep giving this example in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in 1975. In a morning walk, one Indian gentleman asked Srila Prabhupada, we want to assist with you personally, this whole living concept, living guru concept. Prabhupada said, that is all right. But if you want to understand me, if you want to associate with me, read my books, study my books. These books of Srila Prabhupada, when I say books of Prabhupada, I'm speaking of the original first edition, non-adulterated books, not the nonsense grammatical embellishment programs of nonsense speculators and editors. That is not a bona fide book. If we read that, that is the direct Vani incarnation, the direct manifested presence of His Divine Grace. And for those who also a little bit more faithful, they can understand Prabhupada is present in his deity, Prabhupada is present in his picture, and Prabhupada is also present with those bona fide followers, truthful, faithful followers who constantly emphasize him. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for that excellent explanation of this verse from the Bhagavad-gītā. And I wanted to refer back to it just briefly, Venkat. First of all, to text 3, where of all the different types of yoga systems, Krishna is explaining that the path of devotional service, those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, but return to birth and death in this material world. So in the purport, Prabhupada, this is a highlight in the purport down to the first, after the first paragraph. After reading Bhagavad-gītā, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad-gītā. Here it is. One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. Now the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. And this was demonstrated, of course, by Prabhupada practically in his life, especially that we're reading forward in the diaries of Prabhupada in the early 60s. He had completely given up everything in his life except the service of Krishna. Now, I've been moving forward in the study of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I came to the Madhya Lila process of devotional service, chapter 22, texts 14 and 15. And I thought just briefly that I would just read the verses, the English verses for us, because they succinctly describe the the path of devotional service as the only means to get out of the material world. The only way. In this way, the conditioned soul becomes the servant of lusty desires. And when these are not fulfilled, he becomes a servant of anger and continues to be kicked by the external energy, Maya. Wandering and wandering throughout the universe, he may by chance get the association of a devotee physician, that's Srila Prabhupada, whose instructions and hymns make the witch of external energy flee. The conditioned soul thus gets into touch with the devotional service of Lord Krishna, and in this way he can approach nearer and nearer to the Lord. Text 16. O my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. So this is the difficulty that all of us face. Although I've rendered them so much service, they have not shown me any mercy to me. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I ever even desired to give them up. O my Lord, O head of the Yadu dynasty, recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened, and now I'm giving them up. Due to transcendental intelligence, I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires, and I now come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. This is the Sankirtan mission that Prabhupada created for us. Text 17, devotional service to Krishna is the chief function of the living entity. There are many different methods for the liberation of the conditioned soul, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti, but all are dependent on bhakti. Text 18, but for devotional service, all other methods for spiritual realization are weak and insignificant. Unless one comes to the devotional service of the Lord, Krishna, jnana, and yoga cannot give the desired results. When pure devotional service is beyond all material affinity, but is not dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it does not appear very beautiful. Although it is knowledge without a material tinge, what then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the beginning and transient by nature, if they're not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? How can they be very attractive? We'll read on here, but it's very direct information for us on what our mission is. Those who perform severe austerities and penances, those who give away all of their possessions out of charity, those who are very famous for their auspicious activity, those who are engaged in meditation and mental speculation, and even those who are very expert in reciting Vedic mantras are not able to obtain any auspicious results, although they are engaged in auspicious activities, if they do not dedicate their activities to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I therefore repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are always auspicious. And Prabhu, I want you to go up to text 25 for us, please. Because I'd like Yaśodā to comment again. So, text 25, if the conditioned soul engages in the service of the Lord and simultaneously carries out the orders of his spiritual master and serves him, he can get out of the clutches of Maya and become eligible for shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. Here is the essence of this philosophy, which Jayananda Prabhu exemplified, not by academic study, not by renunciation, but by devotional service. He went back to Godhead. That was the example he set for us. And here this purport, this brief purport, gives us the essence, everyone, of our position in this material world. It is a fact that every living entity is eternally a servant of Krishna. This is forgotten due to the influence of Maya, which induces one to believe in material happiness. Being illusioned by Maya, one thinks that material happiness is the only desirable object. This material consciousness is like a chain around the neck of the conditioned soul. As long as he is bound to the conception, he cannot get out of Maya's clutches. However, if by Krishna's mercy, he gets in touch with a bona fide spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, abides by his orders and serves him, engaging other conditioned souls in the Lord's service. That is Sankirtan, everyone. Then he attains liberation and Lord Sri Krishna's shelter. This is the essence of what we are doing at the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
I wanted to read a section of Srimad Bhagavatam and bring this up for discussion. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, Text 19. Canto 3, Chapter 22, Text 19. This is a statement by Kardama Muni with regards to his wife. And at the end of the purport, I'm going to read the last paragraph and open up for discussion. And this is a very important point of what we were discussing. Srila Prabhupada explains, after fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas and engage in the perfectional Paramamsa stage. Paramamsa refers to the most highly elevated perfectional stage of life. There are 4 stages within sannyas life, and Paramamsa is the highest order. The Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Paramamsa Samhita, the treatise for the highest class of human beings. The Paramamsa is free from envy. In other stages, even in the householder stage of life, there is competition and envy. But since the activities of the human being in the Paramamsa stage are completely engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service, there is no scope for envy. In the same order as Kardama Muni about 100 years ago, Thakur Bhaktivinoda also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. By his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples. Now, I just want to point out here that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur departed from this world on the 31st of December, 1936. Prabhupada is writing this purport in 1973 or 74. So how was he preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya if he had already departed like 30 or 45 years ago? In other words, Srila Prabhupada is not thinking of his guru as dead and gone. That's why he's using the term who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout an entire world through his bona fide disciples. Very, very important point. I see that Andabahya Mataji has raised a good point, saying, how can we dedicate all our activities to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And then engaging others in the service of Krishna. Can we engage others by having them help us if we are serving the Lord? Yes, you can do that. That is definitely Prabhupada's plan, to engage other people in participating in distributing Krishna consciousness, specifically distributing Prabhupada's original books, non-adulterated books. Why? Because we do know, just like we've described this point, that Prabhupada's books are his Vani incarnation. He is manifested. These books are the potency of the personality of Godhead. We discussed in one of our recent classes how in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Antya Lila chapter 5, Prabhupada explains when the spiritual master is speaking, it's to be understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is speaking through him. There was one interview with a reporter in 1976 where the reporter asked Prabhupada, how do you know who to choose, what to do? And one disciple said, well, when we have to understand, it depends on my intelligence. When Krishna, Prabhupada says, no. Krishna will tell the pure devotee directly. That is the difference between the fully realized pure devotee and a neophyte devotee. That is the difference. That is why we want to give that connection with Srila Prabhupada. Give them his pure books and give him that association with the pure devotee. That is the best way. Then there was a question from YouTube. Maybe somebody can read that, Vishwakarma. What are they saying here? Question from YouTube. How do we understand? Cannot hear you.
It's me. Sorry about that. How do we understand Guruvadis who die while being surrounded by devotees chanting? If they are truly offensive and misled by their gurus who are offenders at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, how are they able to leave their bodies in such a nice way? Yaśodā, maybe you could give an insight.
Well, that is Krishna's mercy on them. Krishna's mercy on any devotee. Krishna is very merciful to his devotees. There's a place in the Garuda Purana where it is mentioned that even if a devotee is not in a position to remember Krishna, Krishna always remembers his devotees. So depending on this mental situation and devotional mindset of these kind of devotees, they're giving an opportunity to further progress or go back to Godhead. So, I mean, it's one thing for us to judge and say they're offenders, they this and that, but ultimately, let's understand, this is a very important point, we're not the judge. Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada, they will judge. They will judge what has been done. If somebody has made offenses or serious offenses, if somebody has repented for their offenses, Krishna can forgive anyone at any time. That is the power of Krishna, the power of the holy name of Krishna. So we should be very careful in pronouncing judgments, because we've seen in our movement there's been a lot of wrongdoings, a lot of abuses, a lot of nonsense being promoted under the name of Krishna consciousness or so-called bhakti. So it's very important for us to be very careful in trying to judge. It's like if they are truly offensive and misled by their gurus, well, Krishna is going to take care of that. And even if one chants at the time of death, that's good. One has to be situated in the proper consciousness. We don't want to deride or find fault or criticize or blaspheme any devotee. But facts are facts. This is a very important point. Facts are facts. We have to be very, very careful in how we view other devotees. Very, very careful.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to also further explain that if we are fixed in our devotional service and we're fixed in our mission to serve our guru, then this should be our focus more than anything else. We're aware of all of the difficulties that have taken place in Prabhupada's society over the last 40 or 50 years, but that's water under the bridge in some regards for us, at least to give us a clearer understanding of what our mission is. And so our mission is to bring new people into the process of devotional service properly according to Prabhupada's teachings. And in this way, you become absorbed in it, Anandabhaya. The more you become absorbed in the positive, that is, the more you become liberated from the difficulties that you've experienced in spiritual life, having to deal with all types of situations. The more we deal with these situations from the past, the more we understand what they mean in terms of how we should direct ourselves in the present, how we should be involved in spreading Krishna consciousness in the present through prasadam distribution, through distribution of books, and through the cultivation of devotees. I'm hoping everyone on this call has a group of people they are working on to bring to Krishna consciousness. That is our business, to individually cultivate new people and work with them. It is very difficult to help people get out of this illusion of material life. But if you're successful, then Krishna blesses you. And that's confirmed in the Gita. We have Bhakta Robin here, Vinkat. Where is he calling from? Do you know? Is it on your list?
I believe it's from Germany. He's in Germany.
Oh, thank you. Bhakta Robin, you have a question. You have your hand up for Yaśodā. Please, can you speak?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribol.
I just wanted to comment on the purport because it talked a lot about karma kanda and pure bhakti. So I'm living basically in between the biggest Durga temple and the biggest Shiva temple in Germany. So I know a lot of Tamil people, and it's like a poison, you know, this demigod worship. It's like it's very, very difficult to get these people out of it. Yes. Only in the Shiva temple, I convinced some people to read the Bhagavad-gītā. You know, they're reading like Prabhupada's books because they worship Vaishnava. You know, Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava according to Srimad Bhagavatam. It's really like a poison, and I think it's absolutely amazing. You know, if we read these diaries, you know, where Prabhupada's getting like $4. You know, I know a Tamil man who told me one of the Karma Kanda priests, he's getting 10,000 euros a month. You know, so this is like more profitable than you know, like if you have a big university degree or something like this, you know. So it's really strange, you know, like the demigod worshippers, they're really, really opulent. Like the Shiva temple just got bigger, you know, they built a huge Gopuram. The Durga temple, it's huge. And we also had the Vishnu and Krishna temple, and it went bankrupt, you know. The owner, it was a rented building, and the owner sold it, you know, and they had to get the deity out, you know. So it's like just as a comment, you know, on the purport, you know, like pure bhakti versus karma kanda.
Very interesting, very interesting. And further, I'd like to say that really, Bhakta Robin, our goal is not big temples and a large number of followers. The goal is quality people that are searching for the truth. The truth is the essence of what this association is about. And that truth is based on proper understanding of Guru Tattva. For example, a lot of people, and Prabhupada would say that, don't read his books. Even his disciples did not study his books. And in this way, they did not get the proper connection with Krishna through their guru. So you're blessed, Bhakta Robin, because you're able to read Prabhupada's books, associate with Prabhupada disciples, and get the actual taste of Krishna consciousness through this process. And this is what you want to do, is share that with other people as your enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness expands in your character. You're the leader, and the rest of the people there, if you inspire them, they will also come with you. And in this way, you'll get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. It's that simple. Yaśodā-nandana, Prabhu, please.
Well, we had similar experience in South India. We went to a place called Madurai, which was a big center of Shiva worship and Durga worship. And we went to see a gentleman, and we tried to make him a life member. So we presented him the Krishna book. And he was wearing his big Shiva tilak with the 3 lines across his forehead. So, of course, Guru Kripa, in his inimitable style, said, hey, you shouldn't be wearing that tilak. You should wear this tilak, Urdhva Pundra. And then if the man looked at the Krishna book, he was very upset. He says, why Krishna book? Why not Shiva book? And we explained to him, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's described in Bhagavad-gītā. Krishna says, Matta Parataram Nanyat. We have read in chapter 7, text 7. There is no truth superior to me. Chapter 10, text number 8. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. I am the source of everything material and spiritual. So Gurukha Praprishna, the man was furious. He was livid because he was so attached to his conception of demigod worship that nothing you could say to him could penetrate his skull. So it is unfortunate, but this is part of the culture. The idea basically is that to present Krishna consciousness to people that are, especially people that are addicted to this demigod worship, is not easy, as Bhakta Robin presented, because they're doing this for motivation, whereas we are preaching that you should serve Krishna according to the instruction of Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srila Prabhupada, without personal motivation. So immediately there's a conflict. It's there. You can feel it. When you talk to these people directly, you can see the influence of the mode of passion and ignorance to their being, and how they've been polluted by that conception. Mm-hmm. You're trying to present them a higher conception, a higher devotional understanding, and they protest. We once had a conversation with a man in Bangalore in 72. He was a very successful millionaire. We told him that he should start to dedicate his life and eventually take sannyas and engage completely in this preaching work. Oh, he almost had a heart attack. He fell back in his chair. He says, oh, I can't do that. I got my wife, my family, my friend, I got my bank balance, my business. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I says, yes, but will that last forever? What's going to happen to you? I said, and we gave him the example of one gentleman that we tried to make a life member. We went to him one day. He says, well, come back tomorrow and I'll become the life member. And Guru Kripa says, don't wait for tomorrow, do it today. He says, well, I can't do it today. The next day we got a call from the family. The man died. 10 minutes after we spoke to him, he died. So that was a good example. People are so attached to this material world, even though they see so many examples of problems with this material attachment, they do it again and again and again. So this demigod worship is a very good example of this stubborn attachment to the material world. I've personally experienced it several times. I see that Bhakta Robin Prabhu also has his hands up again. Please, Prabhu, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say it's by your mercy, that we stay engaged in hearing and chanting. I really, it's like a lifeline. I'm not such a big devotee, but I enjoy hearing and chanting. So
it's Prabhupada's mercy, Prabhu. It's not my mercy. I'm insignificant.
Yeah, you're being the tool of Prabhupada. So I wanted to say, if you look back in Prabhupada's Leela, he mostly engaged, I think, people from Jewish and Christian background. So these people, and also atheistic people. So these people are more favorable towards Krishna consciousness because they're not contaminated by this polytheism. This is, in many of these Karmakanda followers, this polytheism is so deeply ingrained. Like here, like I know many of the Indian people, and like they go to a Muruga temple, they go to a Ganesha temple, they go to a Shiva temple, they go to a Durga temple. Like they are very devoted, but in the ultimate sense, they don't care who's worshipped there. They just, like go along with the program. So it's I wanted to comment that most like our candidates I think not among these polytheists. And I wanted to say, I was very impressed by Vishwakarma Prabhu when he said, I'm staying in Ontario, I'm not going to like India or something like this. I have to preach Krishna consciousness here in this mining town. This is real Vaishnava. Prabhupada, he went to the Bowery, where, like thousands of alcoholics were living. Like he didn't went to the rich Indians. Haribol.
Thank you. We're getting closer to the end, but Vinkat, could you read Hari Prasad's comment? So we could comment just briefly on that.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Excuse me, Vinkat Bhatta. I apologize.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Harival.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I wanted to start evening kirtans in my home whenever possible, so that I get my family members involved in it. Could you please provide some guidelines for this? And then, okay, yeah, that's the question.
Well, the guideline is do it. Set the program up, send the invitations, prepare the prasadam, and go ahead, take action. That's as simple as it is. There's not much of a guideline there outside of do it. Now, what is the further question? But you cannot force everyone to worship Lord Krishna. Could you read that, Vinkat, for us?
I think that was a reply to a different comment, but...
Oh, okay. Read that out, though.
You cannot force everyone to worship Lord Krishna, Prabhu. Everyone is situated at different rungs of the same ladder, in which the topmost rung is Krishna Bhakti.
Yeah, I wanted to qualify that for everyone. And this is the point. We have to qualify people. You cannot expect everyone to take up this process. So by association with different people and constantly preaching, you learn who is receptive, who isn't receptive to this process. And you act with common sense in dealing with them, how you're going to bring them along gradually. So some people, it may take 30 years of cultivation. Again, I'm going to refer to the situation here in the Hamilton area. We've had people that we've been working with for 35 years in order for them to begin to take up the process of Krishna consciousness seriously. 35 years for one person. So qualifying people is key in your approach to preaching. Be smart, listen to what they say, understand where they're at, and then apply the process to them accordingly, and step by step move them along so that they finally take up the process of studying. We're working with someone right now, it's been almost a year, and trying to remind them, did you read the Gita yet? Oh, I started reading it. I read the introduction. That was the response. Well, how was it? Well, I couldn't understand anything in it. Oh, really? So my comment to them was, well, listen, can you get a notebook perhaps and write down your questions and then present those, ask me those questions so I can help you in the study. Have they done it? No. Do I keep reminding them? Yes. And in this way, carry on pursuing this effort to bring people to Krishna consciousness step by step. patiently working with them. Vijaya in Italy. Work with people that will work with you carefully and step by step. I always say this, and I myself and Yaśodā discuss this commonly. One person is good, but two people, and I know some people will say that, becomes 11. With Yaśodā working with me, it became much better than working by myself. I'm happy to serve him. When you get to 3 people, you've got a lot more power then. 4 is better than 3, and 5 is better than 4. So Vijaya, just go like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Build it out that way. And then you'll have a force to move forward in Italy. Yaśodā, let's finish up here if we could with the last comment from you.
I think it's a very important point that we focus very much on chanting and instructing people individually in the proper understanding. I see that Anda Bahya Mataji has also made a supplementary comment saying very hard for devotees too, when they have been demanding that the changed books are the only ones allowed at the temples, and they back up the fallen and degraded ones and protect them, struggling at the time of birth to the extent of needing morphine. Is that a bad sign? Time of death, I mean to say. Well, whatever the situation is that one has to use his intelligence, his God-given intelligence, to discriminate between proper, genuine, bona fide practice and cheap sahaja practice. That is an important point. Just like I keep saying, Prabhupada did not start a buffalo milk sampradaya or a camel milk sampradaya. It is pure, unadulterated Krishna consciousness. So those people that are promoting different kind of alternatives or karma kanda or watered down or compromised Krishna consciousness, they're going to get that result. Basically, we have to keep in mind the purity of Prabhupada's mission. That is what we're trying to put forward. I realize there's a lot of points and various comments that people make, and it's not always possible to answer all the comments in the short amount of time we have, but people are welcome to go to our website at krishnaconsciousnessmovement.com or contact us individually by email or on WhatsApp. And either one of us or any devotee here will be happy to answer questions or to have further discussion on these topics. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we're coming to the conclusion of today's reading and discussion. And I wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow morning we'll be enjoying the wonderful reading and discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam from the original 1962 versions by Srila Prabhupada. And it's just amazing how Prabhupada's messages from his writings are timeless and perfect on all levels. So please join us for the class tomorrow of Srimad Bhagavatam. And thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of the Prabhupada Disciples Association Saturday morning Bhagavad-gītā reading and discussion. Let's join in on the kirtan from the 60s with Srila Prabhupada playing the bongos and the devotees trying to follow along with clanging of the cartels. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Thanks everybody for participating. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.